Welcome back to another episode of Rob Sports Center. As you can see by the title and by the thumbnail, today we're going to be doing some film study on Zach Allen, an interior defensive lineman for the Denver Broncos. So the very first play, you see the trench domination. So this is also something I was talking about too in the last video I did. When I was talking about TJ Watt, I did film review on TJ Watt, and I was just talking about, looking at the opportunities that he creates for the offense with the turnovers. And that's similar to this situation right here with Zach Allen. Obviously, they're backed up in their own end zone. If you're able to get a safety, get a tackle in the backfield and get a safety, that's 2 points, and you're able to put the offense back on the field. So obviously we know the name of the game for the most part is scoring points. So great defenses are able to take the ball away and give it to the offense so they can try to put points up. But right here, man, he just, uses, he's a big guy, but he moves very swiftly too. Like, if you look at his size, you would kind of think that everything he does is based off of power, which he can utilize that too. But I would also say that he's very good at being, using finesse, like similar to this play right here. Just look at how he just was able to sidestep the offensive lineman and get in the backfield and get the safety and get the tackle on the running back for a safety. So another thing that stands out to me about Zach Allen's game, man, is the effort. You know what I mean? And I always talk about effort because effort is one of those things that you don't have to be the most talented in the world to give. Anybody can give effort. And honestly, giving effort 100% every play, you will really outwork guys that's much more talented than you. So you look at this play right here. Pittsburgh actually did a pretty decent job at blocking it for the most part. They end up shifting off and kind of getting two guys on him at one point. And then you kind of even look at that guy after he knocked his guy down. He kind of unintentionally was able to get in his way and kind of slow him down to a degree. Now, the thing is, you might say, okay, why was Justin Fields sitting back there in that pocket for so long? Like, why wasn't, any options available? And, I always talk about the benefit of having a dominant defensive line and a dominant defensive lineman is that you can take away the need to blitz, right? So when you blitz, we know that on every play, whether if you're a 4-3, you're sending 4 people, and if you're a 3-4, you're sending 3 people. You know what I mean? That's the rush. It's either going to be 3-man rush or a 4-man rush, depending on your base formation. Now, here's the kicker to that. If you can consistently get pressure with just those up front, everybody else is able to drop back in coverage. So you wonder why Justin Fields was sitting back there in the pocket for so long, because it wasn't nothing open downfield. And you only had 3 receivers that released and went downfield for a route, and you had the running back who was covered right there. So it allowed Zach Allen to fight through initially where he was getting blocked right there and just keep on working, and was able to eventually climb up and get Justin Fields. Now, granted, you could say, well, Justin Fields should have made a move and at that point ran, and I agree with that. But like I say, man, the thing is, I love that high effort. Like I say, you don't have to be super talented. You don't have to be super fast. You don't have to be super strong. You ain't got to have the highest vertical to give high effort play in and play out. So this play right here, man, is just an embodiment of everything that I love about the game of football, and that's the level of physicality. So you look at Zach Allen, he's working against number 58. He was able to pretty much beat number 58. I'm assuming he probably just beat him off of being able to anticipate the snap and kind of just really on a leverage. And you see he kind of eased on past him. And then you look at number 68. So number 68 looks like he was kind of just help blocking, like right there. It's like he went after 94. He was going to go block 94, and he didn't even see Zach Allen coming. And Zach Allen just, just for the love of the physicality and the contact, just threw him on the ground. Now, granted, too, him doing that also could have freed up number 94 as well. You take away that block, now you got him. Now number 94 has a free shot coming in at the quarterback. But man, this is just a embodiment of physical football, man. Just look at how he tosses him to the side. Boom, get out the way. Then go back there and get the quarterback for a sack, man. This is what you call physical football at its finest. Like I always tell people that they like to say that the game isn't as physical as it once was. I promise you that is not necessarily true in a lot of ways. If you want to see physicality play in or play out, go watch what goes on in them trenches. And this is a prime example of it. Once again, initially, the Jets actually did a good job at containing them. I see that they had 2 people on them. And they was able, for the most part, to kind of contain him. And Rodgers actually had a target, which was Garrett Wilson, kind of cutting back across the field. Now, like I said, here's the thing that makes like for me, here's the thing that I love so much about his game is the fact that he does not give up on plays. So like I say, he's getting double teamed, right? So he's not able to get back there. Now, some defensive linemen probably would just be like, man, you know what? It is what it is. They done double team me. So I'm just, I got the next play to come back to. But with him, he gets double teamed and and minimized for the most part, but he still gives effort because you see once Aaron Rodgers steps up, he's looking for Garrett Wilson. And that corner was going to drive downfield to try to come stop Rodgers from running. And as soon as Rodgers would have took off running, he was just going to lob that ball. As soon as that corner came down, he was just going to lob the ball over the corner's head to Garrett Wilson for, an easy running catch, But when you got a guy that doesn't give up on plays, those type of things actually are prevented, because you can see Aaron Rodgers was actually loading up with his right arm about to get ready to throw the ball to Garrett Wilson. But by him not giving up on the play, he was able to get a hold to Aaron Rodgers before he was able to get the ball out of his hand. And this was one of those gotta have it situations. So I always try to make sure I emphasize that whenever I'm studying film and watching film, is I always be like, okay, this is a third down or this is a fourth down. It's a gotta have it. And the reason why is because it shows you how much of a playmaker it is that we're watching. When those gotta have it situation, are those top guys, those guys that, are the leaders of your team, those guys that, when we say, man, we need a play, can they make those plays and can they make those plays consistently? And just like I said, once again, it just shows you the effort and the high effort that he plays the game with, because it's a 3rd and 8, got to have a situation. Like I said, either Rodgers could either ran for it or he could have just lobbed it up to Garrett Wilson head whenever that corner drove down because he put the corner. The thing was the corner was put in compromise either because if he drives down and try to stop Aaron Rodgers throws it over his head. Now, if he stays back on Garrett Wilson to not give up the pass, then Aaron Rodgers runs for the first down. But when you got a defensive lineman that's hauling butt like a linebacker sideline to sideline, you're able to do things and you're able to, X out problems that other teams might have because of the lack of effort. So on this play, I'm going to point out a few things. So first of all, watch Aaron Rodgers, right? It's a gotta have it. 3rd down, he rolls out the pocket trying to make something happen. So look at the 2 receivers you have right there. So when Rodgers rolls out the pocket, if those receivers run downfield, they pull those corners away from possibly being able to come down and make a tackle on Aaron Rodgers. Now, here's the thing with that too, because if they run downfield and the corners follow them, now it creates that opportunity for Rodgers. Now, if they don't run downhill, whenever they take off running and they come trying to get Rodgers once again, like the play before, it's just going to be a lob over their head for either a big gain or a touchdown. Now, like I say, when you have a defensive lineman that's like this, the sideline to sideline like a linebacker, once again, it takes away a lot of options. So if he doesn't pursue Rodgers, and like I say, if he doesn't pursue Rodgers and those receivers run downfield, that's a first down easily. But once again, he don't give up on the play. If he wasn't able to get there originally, he just, keeps working until he creates opportunity. So it's almost similar to whenever you see defensive linemen when they know that they're not going to be able to get to the quarterback and the quarterback throws the ball and they just jump up to try to kind of swat it. It's the same thing with that, honestly. He know he's not going to get to the quarterback, so he's just trying to find different lanes, different avenues to be able to get back there. But once he realized that Rodgers was rolling out, he's like, okay, this is my perfect opportunity to capitalize now. I'm just going to beat him to the spot, just like how he did here. All right, so right here we got another gotta have it situation, a 3rd and long, a 3rd and forever, 3rd and 10. So that's the good thing about as a defense. If you're able to win early on, because obviously the first rule of thumb is to be able to stop the run. So I'm assuming that the earlier plays prior to this one probably were run plays that really didn't get any traction. So if you're able to win on 1st down and 2nd down and put a team in 3rd down situations consistently, especially 3rd and longs, then you're able to capitalize off of the strengths that you have, which is your defensive lineman being able to penetrate the offensive line and get pressure up front. And that's exactly what he does again right here. And he actually was being double teamed. That's what's crazy. You know what I mean? And this is just rushing 4 individuals. Look at that. You rush 4. Everybody else now is back into coverage now. So now you got 4 guys rushing and everybody else is sitting back in pass coverage. And then when you got a guy that's like this, that you can even be double teaming and that still not be enough, man, you want to try your best to find yourselves out of those 3rd and long situations. But then, like I always say too, from a defensive perspective, it's like, okay, with Zach Allen in his mind, right, this is a gotta have it. We got to get this. We got to be able to come up with a stop to put our offense back on the field to try to put up more points. So this play right here, man, this is a beautiful play as a whole by the defense. defense. So look at how all the defense is pursuing to the ball. Look at that. You have 11 hats pursuing to the ball. And in the midst of that, you have Zach Allen. So he did a pretty good job at engaging the offensive lineman, kind of getting a little physical with him and being able to kind of out leverage him and kind of because he's looking at the direction that the running back is running in, which is left. He's able to get his hands on him and kind of, push him back. But it was like he's just kind of was out leveraging him because where he was the way he was positioned, the only way that he would have put himself in a bad position if the running back would have been able to abruptly cut back. But other than that, he's just, staying right, kind of just going with the flow. And obviously the running back is going to try to have to close the distance to get to the end zone. And he was right there waiting on him. And one thing I would say too about him, once again, for one, like I say, just the consistent ball pursuit is one of the things I love too. But then also he's a sure tackler. Most of the time that I've seen, whenever he gets his hands on the guy, whether it's the running back or whether it's the quarterback, he's able to get him down to the ground. All right, this is another play, man. Just look at the get off on this play right here, man. Like he was able to anticipate that snap so good that it almost looked like it could have possibly just been a split second from being offsides because he was able to anticipate it so good. So already just based off of that start, he already had the offensive lineman beat. And as you see, he just kind of overwhelmed both of them. He started off on one, he worked his way to the other, and then he was able to come in and get this sack on the quarterback. And granted, like I said, what did I say early on? Look at what they are, 3rd and 13. So that might have been because the defense was just stopping them on the earlier downs, and it could have been because of penalty yardage. But when you find yourself in third and forever situations like this, and you're having to deal with a guy like Zach Allen that can put pressure on the quarterback, then that's not a situation that you want to put yourself in, especially a guy who has a high motor like him, because even if you roll out to try to get out the pocket or try to make something happen, he's pursuing you as if he was a linebacker sitting back sideline to sideline every play. Once again, man, just look at the effort on this play right here. Look at the path he took to be able to go back there and get to Patrick Mahomes. Like, that's just like I said, man, to me, when I'm looking at, for me, if I was a coach, some key principles that my team, and this goes for offense, special teams, and defense, will have to live by is physicality and effort, right? So I need you to be physical every play. As a defensive lineman, what does that pertain to? That pertains to your pass rush and your run defense. Being able to engage blockers, being able to shed, being able to bull rush, being able to, do those things. And then also, too, just saying, okay, what if I get blocked? What if they double team me? What if they chip blocking me and they're able to slow me down a tad bit, that it wouldn't have been if they didn't? Are you still competing? Are you still going up into the whistle? Because even if you didn't get to him in time, that doesn't, or get to him in an idealistic time frame, that doesn't necessarily mean that you still can't get to him, because sometimes you just got to have the trust that your defense on the back end, secondary wise, is going to be able to hold up, and it's going to give you a second opportunity to be able to get back there and get to the quarterback, just like how he did this one right here. And I know I was telling somebody, I was like, I want my defense to have the zombie like mentality. When zombies see humans and they just have a relentless pursuit in order to catch them. I mean, they will run for hours and hours and hours and hours with a human before they can finally get them, if they're able to get them. But they don't give up regardless of how long it takes. They keep going up until they can finally get them if the opportunity presents itself. So that's kind of analogy I like to use for my defenders. Like, it's like, well, that's how I want us play after play. Like, we need to be locating that ball and we need to be pursuing that ball. Once again, he shows two of those key components, physicality and effort. So you gotta have a situation. What do I always say? In those gotta have it moments, do your playmakers, do your stars, do they come up for you? Are they showing up in the moments that you need them the most? And right here, he did a good job at showing up. This is a 3rd and 1. Like I always say, I try to paint the pictures for you guys. We're gonna get our defense off the field, and we're gonna bend, but we ain't gonna break. And we'll rather just give up 3 opposed to 7. Now, if they go for it on 4th, that just is what it is. But idealistically, most of the time, if they're not gonna go for it, they're gonna take the points, and we'll settle for 3 opposed to giving up 7. But he just does a good job at, like I say, man, just disrupting the line. And once again, man, that's one one of the things that I'm seeing that he's very good at too, and that's the snap anticipation, man. If you look, just similar to the play it was against the Saints, where it's like, man, just a split second earlier. I'm talking about just a very split second. That's probably offsides. And he just crushes the offensive line. He's able to get in there and get disruptive and be able to hit the running back and minimize. I think that I might have even been for maybe a 1 to 2 yard losses, man. And that's what I talk about. That's what when I'm looking at a defensive lineman, I want to see that type of havoc being caused up front, because that type of play, it can disrupt a offense completely. Like I say once again, man, I love the physicality and I love the effort. You look at the offensive lineman. The offensive lineman did a pretty decent job at blocking him. Obviously, the running back chipped him, boom, right before he went out to run this route. Hit him on the hip, on the hip pocket to try to temporarily kind of slow him down. But once again, like I always say, man, that's why I love effort, man. That's why I love relentless pursuit. Like I said, man, going back to that zombie-like mentality, the zombies are going to fight until the very end that they can possibly be able to get their hands on the meal. And he does a good job at that right here. He realizes that Joe Burrow's finna get to roll up, and he hits him, and he able to hit the offensive lineman with a spin to be able to, move, push himself back forward to put himself in a position to be able to get a tackle on Joe Burrow. But like I said, man, effort, and that's exactly what this is to me, effort. And that's one of those things that, like I say, man, you don't have to be the most talented to give. You can give effort. Effort is free. It just comes down to how bad do you want it. And I love to see a physical, high effort player just like Zach Allen. He does a great job right here in terms of his technique. Once again, you see that I think he got a pretty good start off the ball. Let me see one more time. Well, I mean, it was a pretty good start. It wasn't like what we see sometimes sometimes, like I say, man, it'd be a split second. If it was a split second earlier, he would have been offsides. But he does a good job at getting physical at the point of attack, getting his hands on the offensive lineman, and then kind of like he pushed forward as if he was going to try to bull rush him, and then kind of just pulled him, used his momentum to be able to swing him forward and being able to shed the block, and he was able to get back there and get a sack on Joe Burrow. So once again, we have one of those gotta have it situations, man, a third down, and this is an overtime game as well. So what do? Defense, we got to find a way to make a play to get off this field, put our offense back on the field to try to seal this win. So right here, you got a 3rd and 14, a 3rd and forever, and you know how those situations go, especially when you're dealing with a dominant defensive lineman like Zach Allen. So it looked like they tried to run some type of stunt, but Cincinnati's O-line, for the most part, man, really did a good job at holding up. But once again, I always go back to that. What happens when you have to somewhat improvise? You know what I mean? What happens when you're not able to anticipate the snap and be able to get back there to him in the time frame that you would like? What do? Do you just be content with just being blocked, or do you find some way to be able to try to make a play? And he does a very good job at that. Like I said, if you look at it from the beginning, it like they tried to run some type of stunt, but since the offensive line picked it up, and then even if you look at the tight end, for one, they got the running back there. He eventually released to the flats. I see right over there now. But then you look at the tight end as well. The tight end kind of, chip. Well, he just kind of got in the way. I think he chipped the other defensive lineman, but he kind of just got in the way of Zach Allen to try to temporarily slow him down for a split second. And from the defensive standpoint, that it's a 3rd and 14. Anything that they throw is gonna be past the sticks for the most part, right? Because we're confident in keeping things in front of us in terms of short passes, because we are confident that we can get downhill, rally to the ball, and be able to minimize that game to where it's just like a little maybe 2 to 3 yard. But like I said, man, Zach Allen don't stop hunting. He keeps working. And he's eventually able to get back there to Joe Burrow. Like I said, man, that's one of the biggest things that stands out to me about him, man, is just that relentless effort and that relentless pursuit. Once again, as you can see on this play right here, man, he does a good job at utilizing his hands to be able to prevent the offensive lineman from being able to kind of get hands on him to try to block him or slow him down. He did a good job at being able to get his hands on him and kind of being able to swim underneath to try to get in the backfield and make the tackle on the running back. Like I say, man, this guy right here, like I just love, like for me, the biggest thing is the effort that he puts in play to play. You know what I mean? Being sideline to sideline, that's not something that you see a lot of from defensive linemen. Obviously, we're accustomed to seeing that with linebackers when you had the guys like, the Ray Lewises Davises, the Levante Davis, those type of guys. We used to seeing that Fred Warner, that relentless pursuit with them. And even if you did sit on the defensive line, a lot of times it would be the edge rushers. But to see that from a guy who plays, who's a bigger guy who typically lines up in the inside more so as an interior defensive lineman, and to see him pursuing the ball like that, man, that's a beautiful thing to watch, and that's a very hard thing to try to combat. But like I say, man, from watching film, I'm pretty impressed with him. I'm curious to see his growth. I know he had a hell of a season this year, and like I say, he was contributing in both aspects, in terms of the pass rush, in terms of the run defense. Also too, like I said, we seen a couple guys that having situations when they needed to make a play to get the defense off the field, to either bring the offense on the field, to just run the rest of the clock down to get the game over with, or to continuously to add to the lead to try to put that team away. So you can't help but respect the way that he plays the game, and that's the way that I feel the game needs to be played. Like I say, it needs to be played fast, physical, and high effort, you know what I mean? And those type of traits right there are the traits that, eventually will lead you to championship play, the championship level football, championship opportunities, for the most part. But man, that is it for this video. If you did enjoy this video, do me a big favor, man. Smash that thumbs up button. Also, if you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe. When you subscribe, make sure that you got that notification bell turned on. I think it turns itself on when you subscribe now, but just double check. That way you don't miss no uploads, and I'll see y'all in the next video.